You're muted. By the way, real quick, so I now at least have I've got the presentation on.
Don't have my ears in. That was a very fast 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is.
So I've got the presentation up and I've got the other one on my iPad, so it'll go much
Like
now because I couldn't get there from here.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I made an assumption and I'm sorry. That one's being
It's all good. So, and I think that's fine.
I think it went rather well, personally.
I think
Yep.
it's great.
All
And
right.
I appreciated everybody courtesy. They were pretty good about
They
it.
were very engaged and very courteous, yes.
All right.
Chime in or-
Not present one.
You know what? I don't think we should worry about it. I think we should just admit everybody.
Yep, I'm in. Just hit allow everybody in.
And then we'll deal with it later.
Yep.
And you want me to share again, right?
Yes, ma'am, please. If you want to go ahead and
Yep.
put it up, that would be awesome.
Do that. And just let me know when you're ready.
I think we're good.
All right.
And you're going to hit record, or is it already recording?
Hold on a second. I do not have record capability on because I'm on full screen.
Got it. It is recording.
Okay. All right. Patricia, let me know when you think most everybody's in the room. Oop. How do I go back? That's weird. Actually, I'm going to stop for 1 second. Why does it do that? Give me 1 second. Ah, there we go. Okay. All right, we ready to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm going to get my screen share going here. Just 1 second. And present. There we go. So just welcome back, everyone. This is Sandy Russell. I'm Vice President of Leadership. Welcome to PTA President Part 2. We're kind of assuming you were at President Part 1, but just in case you hadn't, welcome. Diane?
Hello, I am Diane Velasco Highland. We just met just a bit ago, and we're excited about Part 2. Here we go.
Here we go.
Just so you know, Sandy, we have no one with us. It's just you and me. So something we need to stop in 1 second here. Patricia's not in yet. And you're the only host. You need to make me co-host, and you need to let Patricia in, please.
Me?
Yes, you're the host.
Okay. Sorry, hold on.
No, it's okay.
Oop.
You're muted.
Okay. Participants, let's
And you share.
rename. I am Sarah Russell.
Sandy, if you could, at the bottom of the participant list, hit mute all. That was perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. I can do that.
Bear with us for 1 second, you guys. We were talking away, thinking we were talking to everybody. We hadn't even let you in the room yet. So give us just another second. Diane, I'm going to go ahead and share. Are you ready to go? Okay. Patricia, you think we're good? Okay. Ready, Diane?
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Sandy Russell. Welcome to PTA President Part 2. We say welcome back because we're assuming you came to President Part 1, but on the off chance that you didn't, my name is Sandy, and we're so happy to be here.
And I'm Diane Velasco Highland, your district president. So glad that if there's folks that are new joining us, welcome. And those of you that were with us in the last hour and a half, welcome back, and we'll get started.
And we will. Similar to last time, we are going to take questions at the very end. So hang in there with us while we provide lots of good information, and then we'll have a really good question and answer time. And we also, by the way, are being recorded, as we have previously stated. Just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. Okay, so this particular overview for this workshop, we will be covering aspects of managing your PTA with tips on effective meetings, working with your executive board, and your role in managing that PTA. So let's get started. Hang on 1 second while I change this up a little bit.
So as PTA presidents, you're going to be working with your executive board and the school administration to devise a calendar of events, your budget, and oversee board and association meetings as well, or your general meetings, and then attend committee meetings as needed. As the president, you may serve 2 consecutive terms, meaning 2 years at the unit level, but you have to be elected each year.
So managing your PTA is that before we look at how to make your meetings more effective, let's review the 3 different types of PTA meetings that you could have. First, it's your executive board meetings. These are held monthly. And in this meeting, it's open to your officers, standing committees, chairman, the principal, the teacher rep, and others as listed in your bylaws. The purpose of the executive board meeting is to review committee recommendations and assign duties and to recommend actions to the association. This is where most of the in-depth discussion happens. That way, when proposals for programs or events or spending money are presented to the association, the board can clearly present ideas and recommendations. So why aren't board meetings open to everyone? Well, one reason is it maintains confidentiality, as some items of business are confidential and not shared with the general membership. It also allows officers to share and express their views openly and honestly. So the executive board is the group who's going to be steering the ship, right? They're getting all the information and they're trying to collect everything for everybody to look at the association. Diane, you want to take the next part?
Surely. Hold on 1 second, so sorry. So the second type of meeting is your association meeting. When you meet, and this is going to be detailed in your bylaws and standing rules. So in your bylaws, you're going to find which months of the year and which days of the week, and actually the time in some cases. Many PTAs have only 3 to 5 association meetings per year. So your association meeting is open to members and guests, but remember that only the members are eligible to vote. And the members actually have to ask for what is called a courtesy seat to attend. It just can't be a free-for-all. You have to let the president know that you're attending. And then the purpose of the association meeting is to allow your members to approve programs and expenditures and to adopt audits and the budget, to elect the nominating committee and to elect officers.
Correctamundo. So committee meetings are exactly what it sounds like. It's when you have different committees that get together and they're going to hash out all of those incredible details. The chair of the member of the committee are appointed by the president and are ratified by the executive board. And participating in the committee meetings is the chair, the committee members, the president. The president is welcome to be part of any committee or not. It is entirely up to them, except which one? Nominating committee. The president never serves on the nominating committee. All right. So the purpose of committee meetings is to handle the preliminary work and make recommendations for actions to the board. So again, this is where all the really busy work happens. They make, hash out all the details. What color are those napkins? How many balloons are there going to be? How many, whatever. And then they bring that to the board. They say, we know we have a budget of $500. We're spending $475. Aren't we snazzy? And make sure that everything is in line, that when it goes, especially for approval to the association meeting.
So there are three types as meetings, as Sandy was mentioning: our committee meetings, our executive meetings, and our association or general meetings. It's important to keep minutes for all of these meetings. And quorum is determined based on the type of meeting, and your bylaws is very specific and will tell you what quorum is for each of these three types of meetings. Motions, budget, information, and expenses are recorded in the minutes at all meetings. At your election meeting, record the officers by name and position, followed by naming the officers stated in the bylaws as check signers into the minutes. Minutes are signed by the secretary following approval.
And if you remember from our previous meeting, we talked about, do you have to make things into a motion, blah, 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 I'm not sure. This is one of those check signer ones that we've had discussion with many, many times. Some banks actually, they need to have it as a motion that the association voted on it. So make it a motion. It's okay, right? Now, by the sheer fact that people voted on them, if it's listed properly in your minutes as, President Diane Hyland, Treasurer Sandy Russell, which by the way would never happen, then, and it says check signer, right? That probably is enough, but you can also do it as a separate motion. Effective meetings. Oh boy. So you ever been to a meeting that's just so incredibly frustrating and it doesn't seem to go anywhere? And at the end of the meeting, no one knows what they should be doing. Planning is the key to an effective meeting. So you pick your location, and if you're on school district grounds, you may need to ask for a facilities use form. Be sure and give yourself plenty of time to do so. Remember to give also plenty of notice. That includes the date, the time, and the location, and what the business is going to be that you're going to handle at that particular meeting. Publicize your meetings early in the school year so everyone has them on their calendar. If your school has a calendar, make sure your general PTA meetings and events are included in it. Right, Diane?
Absolutely. You want to be part of that bigger community, right? And as president, you should review the meeting minutes of the last meeting beforehand. Your secretary should be forwarding those to you within a week of your meeting, if not sooner, right? Just to take a look to make sure that everything's kosher. And then the meeting minutes would be provided to that body, whether it's your executive board, your committee, or the association. Make sure make sure those minutes are available, and it's also great reminders of what work was assigned and when it's due, right? They're not having to sometimes chase after folks to get things done.
Yeah. And to get started,
Excuse me? I'm so sorry. I'm getting messages from other presidents that they're still stuck in the waiting room.
We don't have anyone in the waiting room. I don't know. Maybe they're in another class.
They're probably in the first session room.
Oh,
So Patricia, if you could take a look for that for us. This is actually the same meeting room as we had the first time, but they may have hit the wrong button. So Jackie, if you could reach out to any of them and make sure that they go press the President 2 button.
Will do. Will do.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you so much. Okay. So anyway, back to getting started. Check in with your board members and see if any items need to be on the agenda. As a rule of thumb, I personally like to put every single board member on my agenda anyway, and they can always just say, I can say, Susanna with membership, and Susanna says, I have no report tonight. And I say, thank you very much, right? But then it's an acknowledgement that we didn't forget about membership. So, but you can ask specifically to your board members as well if they'd like to be on the agenda. And the agenda should go out 10 days prior to the meeting, so that everyone at the meeting should have a copy of the agenda, and also get background information and materials out before the meeting for people to review. Let officers and committee chairmen know if there is a report expected. It's really a good idea to look at people ahead of time, and not blindside them at the meeting and go, hey, Jackie, would you give a report on that? And Jackie's going, I had no idea, right? So you want to let them know that you expect them to give a report on whatever the specificity is that you have. And there should be no surprises for anybody, right? A good idea is to ask them how long they'll need on the agenda and time it. I know that sounds mean, but we also know that some people, myself included, can ramble on for a very long period of time. And so you can say, hey, everybody, we've got a lot to cover tonight. Could you keep your report to under 5 minutes, under 3 minutes? And just say, and I'll kind of give you the heads up, and you should all encourage that, because none of us like to hang out in a meeting for far too long, right? Okay, so I believe, all right, so effective meetings. So let's keep going about this. There are a number of ways to make your PTA meetings more effective. Start when you say you're going to start, right? Be respectful of everybody's time. And if your meeting starts late on a regular basis, people are going to come late, or they may stop coming altogether. So be respectful of the time. Develop ground rules for the group that can be used at any meeting. One speaker at a time, cell phones off or on mute, time limits for the speakers, being respectful. Please be respectful. You may even want to consider utilizing the professional governance standards found in the PTA toolkit. We talked about that in President's 1. It's just a wonderful guideline that gives people the expectations that we're going to be courteous to others, that there may be a difference of opinion, and that's okay. And so in doing so, this is how we present ourselves, right? Remember to set the example. You may want to use that timed agenda, and the parliamentarian can help you keep track of time. Plan when you want the principal or superintendent on the agenda as well. Use parliamentary procedures to ensure a democratic process. If someone wishes to speak to something that is not on the agenda, let them know that you will make note of it for consideration at the next meeting. Never just open up the floor and say, anybody got anything? That's just opening up something you may really not want to talk about, and that's not how it's done. You have an agenda. Somebody says, I'd like to talk about, replacing the orange cones with green cones. You can say, awesome, shoot me a note, and we'll make that a consideration for the next meeting, right? You don't have enough information to really talk about it at this meeting. So, and then try your best to end on time. Be sure to watch the clock throughout the meeting, or have your parliamentarian do it for you. Again, being respectful of people's time, not letting the meeting go on and on. But obviously at the beginning of the meeting, if it's one of your first ones and you've got a lot of information to cover, you say, hey, everybody, I really try to keep my meetings to an hour, but we've got a lot of stuff to do. So we're going to try and keep it to an hour and a half at most, so they have an expectation of how long they're going to say, or we're going to race through our information in 20 minutes because we've got this fabulous guest speaker that we want you to hear. Right? So keep an eye on time. And I think,
Well, we want to make sure that the secretary sends the minutes to the board members right after the meeting. And again, the president first, and then the board members after the president's had that opportunity. Again, it's a reminder of assignments and work that needs to be completed before the next meeting. As president, you want to follow up with the board members to see if things are under control. Don't do everything yourself, and be available to assist when assistance is needed.
that's right. So committee meetings, they are conducted by the chair of that committee, and with the committee members and the president as needed in attendance. Committee meetings can happen as needed, right? You can do them in the morning and then the evening, however your committee wants to meet. Quorum is determined by having the majority of the members present. So if there are only 2 of you, the 2 of you should be there. If you have 4 people on your committee, you should try to have 3 people there, right? This is where lengthy discussions of the preliminary work get done to hammer out all of those details. Committees make recommendations, not decisions, and recommended actions advance in a report to the executive board by the chair. Details include a timeline, event details, and authorizations for expenses and budget. Something really, really important here. So let's say you have a really big event and you're going to sign contracts with, these kinds of vendors. The committee chair does not sign contracts. All of that must go to the executive board, and it gets voted on and then goes to the association to authorize the president and 1 other person. If that committee chair signs documents, they are then taking on the personal liability because it was not voted on by the association to sign that contract. It's really important. I know sometimes people are excited and they just want to get things done, but you got to let them know you're trying to protect them, and you want to make sure that it goes through the proper procedures. And I think
There is so it's okay. Your bylaws and standing rules contain a list of the positions in your PTA unit. Information on each of these chair positions is available online at CAPTA.org, which is short for California State PTA.org. Procedure books should be maintained by each chair detailing the events, the budget, and the outcomes or recommendations for each event. Procedure books may not be an actual book, but the information or files should be forwarded to the next officer filling this position so that they can continue to include the best operating procedures to share with the next chair and committee members. Additional or special committees can be added at any time with the executive board approval. So types of committees could be your fundraising, ways and means, a program committee that would be special events or a family engagement, maybe a family arts night, or maybe a STEM night for families. Membership would be a committee, hospitality, right? The parent liaison, or a room parent coordinator, or a volunteer coordinator. Then there's maybe an awards committee or a scholarship committee or student recognition. Many schools do this monthly. Also good to have a student representative, right? So they can bring information to you, what's happening with the student body, and then they can take the information of the PTA meetings back to the student body as well. Communications, right? Whether it's a newsletter or if you have a corresponding secretary, something along those lines as well.
Right, and just remember, many hands make for light work. It's a good opportunity to bring somebody into a committee who maybe is new to PTA, has a passion for something in particular, and it's a great way to start building capacity for future board members. So, all right, so speaking of board members, let's talk about that executive meeting. So executive board meetings are held monthly and are open only to the officers, standing committee chairs, teacher representative, and principal. And your bylaws will list the members of your executive board. You're going to hear us keep talking about refer to your bylaws, refer to your bylaws. And all of these officers must be members of your PTA. So guests can now be granted a courtesy seat by the president to share information. They do not vote, and they need to leave the meeting after their report. So an example of this would be, maybe you've got a school district person advising about curriculum changes or budget impacts, or someone making a pitch for a new idea. So they bring that forward, they're given a courtesy seat, they come in for their time only, and then we thank them and they need to leave so that you can have a discussion afterwards if necessary to make decisions based on what they presented. Executive board meetings are, like we said, typically held monthly, and this is where most of the in-depth discussion takes place. Typical discussions could be appointment of officers and chairs, reviewing of the budget, the audit, bylaws, planning for speakers, programs at the general admission meetings. You get the gist. In addition, the executive board reviews committee recommendations and assigned duties and discuss recommended actions to present to the association. And this way, when proposals for programs or events, excuse me, or spending money are presented to the association, the board can clearly present the ideas and those recommendations. So oftentimes you'll hear them say, this is board recommended, so we don't require a second. It's because the board has already thought it through. They've asked all the hard questions. You get it. So why aren't board meetings open to everybody, Diane?
Because sometimes there are confidential matters that are discussed in the executive board meeting. And we want to make sure that executive board members can speak freely about an issue or an item of business.
That's
without
right.
Concern that it's going to be leaked out or whatever. And, obviously respectful conversations, but you have to be able to speak freely.
And remember that the minutes never record the minutia or the arguing or the
Debate.
the civil debate. Hopefully, civil debate. You never sit. The recording secretary doesn't sit there and try to capture every word. That just says, detailed debate ensued, and then the recording is the action that's being taken, not all of that, intimate details. So your recording secretary should sit back, let it all fall out, and then say, okay, let me be clear. The action for this moving forward is this, right? Okay.
And nonprofit law requires 3 positions to be filled. And we had talked about that a little bit earlier in the president's one workshop. So that is, you have to have a president, you have to have a treasurer, and you have to have a secretary. In addition, your bylaws will detail which additional positions are elected, right? Parliamentarians are always appointed by the president and then ratified by the board. Additional members of the executive board, which you as president may appoint, include the corresponding secretary and the standing committee chairs. All of these need to be ratified by the executive board. Your bylaws will include or indicate if the auditor is an elected position or an appointed position. If the auditor is an appointed position, the appointment must be no later than the date it's written, once again, in those bylaws. For the other appointed positions, appointments can happen immediately following your PTA's election and continue throughout the year as you find volunteers. California State PTA does not recommend or encourage the practice of administrators, so that's like our principals, serving as officers or check signers. This is because the unit that elects the administrator to any office forfeits that administrator's important role as advisor. In addition, it misses an opportunity to develop a new leader from your membership, right? So it's important to check with the school district as to their policies and procedures in regard to employee participation. In some of our school districts, it's forbidden. And others, they don't want the liability, say, for example, of a teacher or an office manager being the treasurer. They don't want to get involved in that. And it's good practice. I'm not saying that it's against the rules, but you just want to check. It varies from school district to school district.
Right. So an important part of the PTA president's job is overseeing the executive board so that it works effectively together. For board members, the president puts together an agenda a couple of weeks before the meeting, and a sample agenda with a script for you to follow is in the toolkit on the California State PTA website.
We also uploaded a revised version of that includes the approval of that agenda we were talking about earlier.
Right. So here's an example of an executive board agenda. This agenda is a guide only. It's adaptable to meet your PTA needs. But let's talk a little bit about some of those items. Call to order is what time you get started. And did you meet your quorum? Your quorum is located where? In your bylaws.
Bylaws.
That's right. So attendance is the time for a welcome, and usually we don't say attendance. We tend to say welcome and introductions. You need to make sure that your minutes are approved either as written or as corrected. You need to make sure that there's always a financial report, include the treasurer's report, as well as motions to approve any actions. The treasurer's report is filed for audit, and a motion is needed to ratify expenses and to approve newly presented bills. Every board member has a fiduciary responsibility and needs to understand this report. We all take responsibility when it comes to our finances. We may not like treasurer work, but we can sure look at it and make sure that it's all being done correctly. President's report includes the information from council, and or district meetings. Could also include updates on meetings with the principal or community organizations, maybe something they learned from being at a call with California State PTA or national. You're providing information on the things you learned. And then principal and teacher rep reports, give them time to share what's happening at the school officer and committee chair reports. Again, I said earlier in the first President one, a lot of parents come to our meetings, because they have access to the principal and to the teacher rep and to hear these things. And when we're talking about executive board and association meetings, but this is how sometimes you get people who want to be on the board because they know it's the group in the know. It's what I found out at my schools. Unfinished business, the president presents each item of unfinished business as indicated in the minutes. And he or she should not ask, is there any unfinished business? Because you're the one presenting it. New business, a motion is necessary before discussion and vote on any new business. All proposed business to be considered at the meeting must have been properly noticed to be acted upon. Once voted at the executive board meeting, it can be brought forward to the next association meeting. What's important here to understand is that what you don't want to do is surprise people with something, especially if it's controversial, right? And somebody says, and 3 people couldn't make it to your meeting. And they go, I had no idea you were talking about that. I needed to be there for that, right? So you want to make sure people understand what's going to be there. We don't want, again, no surprises. And announcements, the date of the next meeting, important activities should be announced. And then of course, an adjournment. No motions necessary to adjourn. You just say the meeting is adjourned at and state the time. Whichever report is being presented, it's not criticism or doubting to ask questions. It's making sure everyone understands. So you, as a president as well, you can help direct that for people who might take things personally. Welcome questions. Welcome that opposing viewpoint. I mean, I had one person one time, all the time she'd always bring the opposite opinion. And I always thanked her for it because it said we weren't being complacent, that we were listening to other ideas, that we were open and willing to have civil and polite discussion. So welcome those questions, welcome that discussion.
So your executive board working together, right? We have a to-do list. So first, it is running and managing your PTA. So the executive board oversees the day-to-day running of your PTA. The purpose is to plan and conduct business between association meetings. So your main duties are listed in your bylaws, that buzzword bylaws, and the toolkit, and they include paying bills, creating committees, which the executive board has authorized to create to carry out the work of the organization. And in addition, the executive board fills any vacancies. So when a vacancy occurs for an officer or a chair position after the election or later in the year, the executive board elect before June 30th, or the executive board after July 1st is responsible to fill the vacancy by electing a replacement. The bylaws explain this process in more detail. Please check those bylaws for your year-end date. And again, as Sandy mentioned earlier, most of our schools, with the exception of Burbank, end their fiscal year on June 30th. Burbank currently has May 31st as their end of their fiscal year. So you want to communicate and collaborate by ensuring that your executive board members plan to attend all board meeting and association meetings. Can't get business done if the executive board's not there. You want to make sure at every meeting they provide a report to the board to let everyone know what's going on and what you're working on. Your treasurer should be providing a treasurer report. Your membership chair or vice president should be telling you what's going on with membership. If there was maybe a fall event, fall carnival as an example, that committee chair should be providing that report. Where are we, on this? What still needs to be done? What has been accomplished? Okay. The executive board is also responsible to provide board reports to the association at each general meeting. An executive board report includes the recommendations of the board to the association for adoption of the budget, the audit reports, all program projects and fundraisers, and approval and ratification of all expenditures. It's critical that these items are voted on at the association. Once again, you can't spend money or move forward with contracts until you have that approval by your association. So working together, your to-do list, you want to make sure that your PTA officers remember that they have a fiduciary responsibility to be good stewards of PTA assets. It's not just the job of the treasurer. Every officer on your board needs to recognize the importance of being in charge of the funds and to further the work of PTA and managing those funds well. So there's a question. Who's responsible for fiscal management, Sandy?
Everybody.
Exactly. The PTA board and the PTA membership must decide how monies are spent and require a vote of the association every single time. Okay. It is the responsibility of the board members to not only review and understand the financial reports of the organization, to make sure that the reports are given out at all meetings. It is your fiduciary responsibility to protect the assets of the organization. You must be transparent in order to protect not only the financial assets, but the most important asset, which is the reputation of your PTA, right?
Absolutely.
You never, yeah, go ahead, Cindy.
No, I was just going to say, this is such an important thing, and it goes in, we'll talk about some more, but it goes into, you should be happy to have an audit. You should be happy to have people ask the questions. You want your membership as well coming forward and asking those questions because you want to make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. And if it's not transparent, there's a serious problem there. Okay. So, association meetings. So, association meetings are open to all members and guests. But only members are allowed to vote, and they must have been members for 30 days. Meetings occur as stated in your bylaws and standing rules, and the agenda needs to be posted 10 days in advance of any meeting. The president can call an emergency meeting with 10 days notice, and all of these details are listed in your bylaws. Typical actions take place at an association meeting that include the approval of programs, events, fundraisers, the review and approval of finances such as the budget, release of funds, ratification of expenses, adoption of the budget, adoption of bylaws and standing rules, election of the nominating committee, which takes place at least 2 months before the election meeting, and the election of officers. I think you should do your nominating committee starting in December. And that way they can get rolling in January at the latest, so that probably you're going to be voting either in, again, look at your calendar, right? February, March, or April is when your association meeting is that you're going to be voting on your new officers. Don't delay. Get that taken care of as quickly as possible. So the agenda, both the agenda for an association meeting and the executive board meeting are similar in their structure. Again, you have to, make it your own. But the PTA membership is the only group with the authority to approve the following, which must take place at an association meeting. And before I say that, I'm going to state again to you, most people think that it's the executive board that makes all the decisions. No, the executive board does a lot of the work that prepares everything for the association to vote on. Okay, so the PTA membership is the only group, I'm going to say it again, with the authority to approve the following: to elect the nominating committee officers and PTA convention delegates, to adopt bylaws and standing rules, to approve contracts for PTA programs and events, to authorize an individual to represent the PTA, and to authorize the PTA's position on an issue after a study. So at an association meeting, a summary report of executive board findings, not the minutes, is read for the information of the members. This is called the executive board report. So your association meeting is one of your opportunities to engage with all of your members. Make your meetings informative and inspirational by planning a program. Take the opportunity to share and brag about what your PTA has done. Talk about plans for the year and how your members can be part of the picture. And a great way to get members to attend is to have students perform or have a guest speaker. But be sure to have them at the end of the meeting so that everybody stays and you have quorum for all of the business that you need.
So managing your PTA, how to work smarter. We talked a little bit about some things that you might need to become familiar with so that your team starts off down the right path, right? We want you to work smarter and save a lot of time and effort during your PTA year. So first, we're going to look at ground rules, right? We want to make sure that boards have mutually agreed to the ground rules and rely on them to work well together. Sandy?
Yeah, and goal setting. And at the beginning of your term, your board should set your goals, record them, and evaluate them from time to time to assess if they've been met or if you need to change them. Your goals should reflect the mission of the PTA, and very often your goals are what will attract busy parents to volunteer their valuable time to your PTA. So make sure you publicize it frequently.
And then there's communication. Open communication among the board members is vital for the team to operate effectively, right? If you haven't heard from somebody, reach out, and see what's going on to make sure they're in tune with what needs to happen if there's a deadline coming up or anything like that. Right?
Because, then it leads us into some conflict management. No one likes conflict, right? None of us like that. But if it happens, then your team needs to deal with it through conversation and negotiation, respecting each officer's views, feelings, and commitment. I will also say, just in regards to that, if you're doing stuff via text or email and something doesn't feel right to you, stop with that type of communication, pick up the phone or meet the person in person and have a face-to-face conversation or a vocal conversation. Because more often than not, you're not really hearing what somebody has to say properly, and you took offense, and all of a sudden it festers and it gets worse and worse, and that wasn't what the intention was at all. So soon as that starts to happen in the written form, we're all not, John Steinbeck or, any great writer, right? So we may not be conveying our feelings or our personalities across in any of that. Pick up the phone, talk to somebody, and don't let it go. Do not let it fester for any longer than you have to.
Absolutely. I hear. It's important. Also, team building, right? It's vital to maintain the health of your PTA and also the growing leadership at your PTA, at your school. You want people to want to be part of the PTA board in future years or as committee chairs in the current year, whatever that may be. The last thing you want is infighting where I don't want to be part of that PTA. I don't want to be part of that board. I don't want to be president. No, you want people fighting to do that. I do want to be president. I do want to be your membership chair, and I can do a great job, right? That's what the community that you want to build with your PTA.
Right. So managing your PTA, communication matters. So how, when, why your communication with your members, board members, the principal and teachers matters. So set up ways to communicate effectively. Do it regularly, make sure it's two-way, and keep everybody in the loop.
You're going to want to walk the talk. As president, you're the face of PTA in your community, and that'll set the bar for how people view your PTA. That's why it's so important as a role model to be welcoming and inclusive in your words and in your actions, and to always, always, always walk the talk.
Yeah. So now let's just chat a little bit more about that conflict management, because we know it's a big issue for everybody. There's the 3 R's to consider. So before I get to that, the difference of opinion or in your work style and personality sometimes, means that conflict bubble up in your PTA. And so the first R is recognize conflict, right? As a president, you'll need to step up to manage these situations quickly, quietly, and fairly. And then there's referee the conflict, which most people don't like to do. However, like any referee, it's important to remain neutral and to listen and not take sides. And there's no right or wrong way to handle a concern, but there may be a more practical or feasible way of doing it by resolving the conflict. That's our 3rd R. Understand that not all will be happy with the decisions that are being made, and not all conflicts are easily resolved. Before a situation escalates, contact your council or your district president to exchange ideas on what might help and what might work. And for more information on that, there is team building and conflict management information that's available on the CAPTA website, as well as all of us who are available to you to also attend meetings. We can help you out in any way. I know those things aren't very fun, but they are really important to deal with in order for your board to continue to be effective.
And one of the things we find with conflict also is if we bring it back to why are we doing this work, right? We want to collectively speak up for kids. We want to positively impact the lives of all children and families, and we can't do that if we're bickering or if we're not, working together, right? Conflict happens, and that's okay as long as it's healthy and respectful. So we have a communication pledge, and it's within our nature not to want to hurt another person, but yet as those same people, sometimes gossip occurs, right? Words spoken or not can lead to some of the most explosive situations. So why do we not speak up? We don't want to hurt your feelings, but yet we sit back and let the situation build until there's no truth left in the words. So it's important, and you may be familiar with what we call parking lot meetings, where you have the real meeting, and then after the meeting's over, there's side meetings going on in the parking lot and talking with everyone except the person with whom you have the issue. It's unproductive, and it can be very damaging to that individual and to the team, right? It's one of the hardest things you might have to do is a one-on-one conversation. But I ask you to join me in this communication pledge and take it back to your board as well. And that is, tell me first, tell me privately, tell me in a language I can understand, tell me as soon as it is a concern, and give me time to think before we conclude. Excuse me.
Okay, so managing your PTA. So start off by empowering and mentoring. There are many ways to empower and mentor other PTA leaders and volunteers, but all depend on clear communication. And it's important as president to provide support and build confidence in everyone's abilities and skills so that they can work smarter and enjoy their volunteer experience. Active mentoring helps to grow leadership capacity by your PTA for both today and tomorrow. Recognize, though, that there's different work styles. The way people work is just as different as we are as individuals. Some hear a task and run with it, and while others need every detail and step of the process in writing, right? And however, both can provide wonderful outcomes. And as you learn more about their personalities, experiences, and skill sets, this helps you determine if they need more assistance on a timeline to complete a task, or if you just need to check in with them a week prior and make sure there's nothing else that they need. So always plan ahead so that you can delegate activities. Ask for help and share the workload. You cannot do it all alone, nor should you, by the way. Give everyone a chance to do the job that they were assigned, and don't try to micromanage. Consider breaking jobs into smaller portions maybe so that they're more manageable. For example, we're hosting the principal's welcome tea, and I'll need 5 people to help. 1 to send invitations, 1 to set up, someone to bring scones, another to bring the tea, and somebody else to bring centerpieces. You get the idea. And of course, you know, a great thanks and shout out to your volunteers. Always show your appreciation with a heartfelt thank you, and give a public shout out to volunteers to show how much their work is valued. And then be the brand. Remember to be the PTA brand and to always factor in the fun in running your PTA. There's always some great programs also on the Capita website about volunteer recruitment that you can check out as well. But nobody wants to join a PTA where everyone just is like, oh, it's so much work. I don't want to do it anymore. Oh, it's so stressful, right? Think of Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn when they're painting the fence and they go, oh, this is so much fun. And they got everybody to join in. And again, I'll say it, light hands, you know, many hands make for light work. And it's some of the most fun times I have ever had in PTA when a bunch of us were doing the work together. When I was doing things by myself, I was grousing and being upset. But as soon as I asked for help, people were always ready to give it, and it was a lot more fun. So one last thing to take care of before we jump into Q&A. In the privacy of your home, I'd like for you to raise your hand. And although we can't hear each other, please repeat after me. I will not do this all by myself, since I'm part of a team, right? Remember, you're the manager of the team. You're not alone. You have resources like councils and districts and state. You have the website with tons of information in the California State PTA Toolkit. We are so there for you. If you take nothing away from today, take that you're not alone, you have resources, and we are always happy to help. So we hope that you have a wonderful wonderful year as president. And now we are ready for some Q&A. So what we'd like to do with Q&A, as we did before, but if you weren't part of that room, raise your hand and we'll call on you and we'll get started. Rebecca's iPhone.
Go ahead and unmute Rebecca. She went away. Okay.
Okay,
How,
go ahead, Diane.
Margarita Luna?
Thank you both again. Really appreciate the time that you're putting into this and the information that we're receiving. I have a couple of questions. The first one was, can committees be filled with non-board members? So PTA members that are not part of the board. And then the other one was, could you share a little bit about sample goals? When you talk about goal setting for the year, just wanted to hear a little bit. I'm a new president, so just wanted to hear a little bit about what that could look like.
I'll take the committee question. You absolutely want to bring in members onto your committees. That's a great stepping stone to eventually become a leader at your PTA. So there might be someone that's maybe a new kindergarten mom as an example, and maybe you need someone that needs to put together a newsletter, and maybe she used to work in publishing, whatever, right? You just bring them in that way, or we need some help in this committee or that committee, but absolutely, just need to be a member.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely. I think that's a wonderful one, a great way to build capacity and potential board members, right? And then as far as goal setting, it's anything from, you can do it a couple of ways. One, there's actual participation with your school. So we'd like to have a book fair. We'd like to provide 2 assemblies this year. Last year we only did 1, so our goal is to see if we can raise enough money and talk with our teachers about 2 really great assemblies. So we'd like to do a back to family picnic, right? So you set the goals for the events that you'd like to have. You can also set, and then you can set a membership goal. We had 300 members last year. We'd like to get 320 this year. That's a goal. It can be a goal of, let's say your board has had difficulty in the past. There's been animosity. There's been dysfunctional. You can make a goal as a board to be more inclusive, more collaborative, kinder. Goals are, what you want to make them, but those are some of the ones I would put out there. All right, Nora?
Hi, thank you so much for all the valuable information. I wonder if you can help a lot of the new PTA presidents handle missing people when they sign on to a position. They start off 1 or 2 months and then all of a sudden they go missing. They don't want to do anything. They drop off the books or they drop off their materials, and they're, you just can't force them, obviously. And that's how I have myself ending up doing everything on my own. It's a challenge. I'm sure it happens to a lot of us. It might happen to you, so I need to know there's a way we can navigate through that.
First and foremost, we're hoping that the process of your nominating committee was fulfilled. In other words, letting people know. If I tell you, hey, Nora, president's piece of cake, and maybe you do it an hour a week, that would be a false statement, correct? But if I tell you, the president, you're going to be chairing meetings, you're going to be having these types of meetings, and this is what your responsibility would be, going in what it is. Now, there's never a promise that all your board members will stick around, and it happens at all the levels, unit, council, district, and even state, for a variety of reasons. Sometimes there's a death in the family, sometimes there's a change in financial status, or they had no idea that it was going to be whatever it is, and have to step away. My recommendation is that you try to check in with your board members to make sure that they're doing okay, right? Not just PTA work, but just on a personal level. There has to be some connection. And then it goes back to what are they getting at the meetings, right? We want to make sure that it's upbeat and, we're not doing public shaming, because sometimes that happens. What do you mean you didn't do the report, right? But want to do something. I've been to meetings like that where that's happened. It's like, oh, okay. Nobody wants to be publicly shamed. You want to build that team. And sometimes things happen, and that's okay. If you're prepared for it and say, we had something happen, like if you don't get a treasurer's report, it still has to be done and we still need it for the meeting, but hopefully it's being done ahead of time. And so maybe you're asking for reports 2 or 3 days before the meeting, as opposed to the day of, and then it's a surprise, makes the whole team look bad, right? As opposed to having it ahead of time. So those kind of planning and so on. And then again, reaching out to your membership all the time. Hey, are you interested in this? Again, we don't want to marry volunteerism with membership, but if you're interested, we've got all these fun things. Or if you want to come in with a new idea, we welcome that, right? As a new program or as a, and give you an example, during my term as Community Concerns Vice President, Sandy and I were both very interested in community concerns. And she wanted to bring mental health first aid to our PTA. And she worked diligently with community partners to make that happen. And it was outstanding, right? So there might be something that is a need in your community, and you'll get somebody that's excited about it, right? But if I'm not honest with you going in and say, oh, membership, you just have to tell me how many members, came in. No, there's more to it, right? There's a little more to it. You got to be kind of a cheerleader, and you got to make sure that the funds are getting to the treasurer and things along those lines. So
one other thing I'd like to add, Nora, to answer your question a little bit is, if somebody walks in and just says, yeah, I can't do this anymore, here you go. One thing is, okay, can we, I appreciate and respect that. Can you tell me why? And make sure you have that direct conversation. Says, how is there something I can do to help? And if they say, yes, like what Diane was saying, let's say something, and they don't have to give you their personal details. That's none of our business. But they can just say, things have changed. It's just, I'm too overwhelmed right now. And then you say, well, if I get you help, can I get you to stick around? If we get you, see if there's a way to work with them on what their needs are. Or maybe somebody says, wow, I thought I could be treasurer, but I realized I am no good at it. I actually had a dear friend of mine who did that. And I said, that's it, you're not happy, and that means you're not going to do the job well. And I immediately went running, looking for another president, and then put her in a different position. She resigned, put a new person in and gave, so you have to make sure people are good where they're at. And so sometimes it's sitting and really having that one-on-one discussion with them to find out what it is that they might need in order to keep them, because maybe they're great, they just need help, right?
Okay, thank you. I have a second question, but I can wait till the end if there's time. Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks, Nora.
thank you. Jennifer?
Hello, thank you for having this conference. I just want to know, I love the idea of putting meetings along with a speaker or a special event to encourage attendance, and also kill two birds with one stone. What actually needs to be said at a meeting versus what could be sent in a PDF or posted ahead of time that doesn't necessarily need to needs to go through at a meeting, so that we could have those 20-30 minute meetings if need be?
There's certain business that has to occur at every meeting. You always have to have financial reports. You have to have actions of the board. And in our meeting documents, there's a sample agenda, so of what has to happen. But what you want to make sure, you could even do, we do at First District, if somebody misses out, we do kind of a recap of what happened at the meeting without providing confidential information, and it goes out to the membership so that they can share that information. You may have seen it. It's a newsletter called You Heard It Here First, right? So we'll talk about what happened and what was reported generally, right? If somebody wants more information on that. But the actual, you still have to approve the financial reports. You still have to, at a meeting, you have to approve the expenditures. You still have to approve any, budget changes or the actual budget, those types of things. But if you have the reports ahead of time and you've met as an executive committee and have it planned, the meetings can go very quickly. Association meetings shouldn't be long at all, truly. What do you think, Sandy? 20 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, sure. You can certainly do that. And what you can do with the board report stuff you're talking about is you can do a handout at the meeting that in essence is like announcements, right? Membership drive. You can do it as a flyer, right? Membership drive, don't forget to join. And then your membership person doesn't necessarily have to stand up, though it's always good to do a membership pitch. Book fair coming, these are the dates, needing volunteers, right? So you can hand it out and then not have to do all of those reports. So yeah, I think there's other ways of streamlining. And if you have any other things, we can certainly, chat about it. That help? Okay. Barbara.
Good morning. Okay, I wanted to ask a couple questions. It's kind of a little bit different, maybe. Are PTAs in competition? Should we attempt to talk to other PTAs to find out what they're offering to their families? And is there a space that PTAs submit like different ideals that different schools can try?
Barbara, can you repeat that? We're having a little bit of a hard time with your audio. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I asked, are PTAs in competition? Should we attempt to talk to other PTAs to see what they're offering to their family?
Okay, that's one question.
And is there a space?
Okay.
And is there a space that PTAs kind of all submit all their ideals that we can go online and look at that different PTAs have tried that we could try at our own school?
Great.
Sandy?
Okay. So if we heard you correctly, you were asking, there's a couple ways of answering this. So there are things usually at the state level where we're doing like membership and the different legislation, health community concerns, and they're doing monthly calls, and you can get on there and share ideas with each other. You hear what's current, what's happening, and then usually there's a sharing time. So that's also a great opportunity. So if you go onto capta.org, and usually on the first page on the left-hand side, it says sign up for these mailings. And you can get very specific. Maybe you don't want everything. Maybe you only want membership or whatever. So you can sign up for those. Thank you, Patricia. And I think locally, especially if you have a council that you're with, your council should be having a meeting pretty regularly, and that you all get together, and it's a great opportunity to share ideas with what each other's doing. You use the word competition, and I'm not quite sure what that is referencing, because we're not really in competition with each other, but you can have a friendly, hey, I've got more memberships than you right now, but make it a pleasant thing. And
we did something with San Gabriel High School and Mark Keppel High School have a pretty strong rivalry. And when I was membership vice president at the unit level, we had a challenge. Okay, who's got more members? Oh, we can get 500. Well, we can get 8. Well, we can get 1,000. That type of thing. A friendly competition. But as far as what works, what's happened in fundraising or what's happened in education, and we were able to bring this speaker in, absolutely the sharing, as Sandy mentioned, right, at your council meetings. And we do the same with the councils at the district level. We want to share those idea sharing.
Right. And I know that when we meet in person, and when you attend convention, California State PTA Convention, if you've never done that, please plan on going. next year. Do we have the dates on next year's convention? I think we do, right, Diane?
I believe it's in May in Ontario, but
Yeah. So everybody, by the way, this is a PTA expense. We highly recommend it. Plan on going to convention. Try to take as many board members with you as you can afford.
it's your budget.
It is one of those incredible events that makes you go, oh, and you kind of get the big picture of PTA, what it means at a state level. That is an incredible opportunity for sharing ideas and just finding all kinds of incredible information. And we will be doing this training, all things good in the world, next year at the same time, where we meet in person. In the past, we've met in person and we have over 400 people who come to this event. And that's this incredible opportunity for sharing and for exchanging of ideas as well. As we move forward into the new year, our board, the new First District Board, is meeting with our retreat, and we're going to be having discussions about, I know, like, I'll be the Health and Community Concerns Vice President, and it's my goal to have monthly evening meetings that people can come and hear what's going on and maybe hopefully get together and figure out what we can do as First District to influence some of our things with youth mental health awareness and homeless foster youth, etc. So so look for a lot of that information coming out in the new year.
And one thing I just want to throw in that I didn't understand when I was a unit president. So you're a unit president at your school, and then all the schools in your school district are a part of what we call a council. And then each of the councils are the different school districts: Burbank, Glendale, El Monte, Roland, Pomona, and I haven't named all of them, but each of those umbrella organizations have a monthly meeting. And then we at First District have a monthly meeting. And, ask your council president that you'd like to come, see what we do. And you get to see how we handle meetings, how questions are fielded, and all of those things. So there's just so much help out there from PTA at national level, the state level, and at the district level, as well as council. Okay.
Barbara, I hope we answered your questions. We're going to go on to Tiffany.
Hi, I have two questions. I think you guys touch upon a little bit, but I want to just get some clarification, because I'm currently on two boards. One is in elementary, one is middle school. I see them do differently, so I want to get some clarification. First thing is for the financial report that you mentioned, it needs to get approved in every meeting or presented in every meeting. Does it mean that every meeting is including executive board and association meeting as well for the financial report?
So at your executive board meeting, your treasurer will be presenting a treasurer's report for that group, as well as expenditures to be approved, and then usually an update on your budget to actual monthly.
Yep.
So you see what's being spent. Then once those documents are, some are filed for audit, like your treasurer's report's filed for audit, but your expenditures are actually a motion has to be put forward and approved. Okay, so that because you're going to be spending money. Once that action of the executive board, that has to be taken to the association. Okay.
Because
So
just be really clear on that. It is, even though the auditor may use executive board meeting minutes, it is the association minutes that have to be approved for it to be approved in the audit as well, right? It's the association meeting that's where it has to happen.
I see. Okay. So approve all the actions, expenditures that has to be approved by the association meeting.
It's put forward by your executive board and then has to be approved at the association meeting. Correct.
Okay, but the regular financial report, like monthly expenditure, all that, does the treasurer need to report to the association meeting?
Yes, to your
Okay.
executive board and to the association meeting. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. And second one is about the minutes as well. You mentioned about the minutes need to be
Yes.
approved. I have one board that the minutes never presented to the board and it just get filed, never get signed. And
Okay.
I have another board that has a committee to approve those minutes,
Correct.
which include the parliamentarian and president and all that. There's a committee need to approve the minutes. So what is the
So-
protocol to be done?
Okay, so your meeting minutes, again, once the secretary takes the meeting minutes, they're supposed to first be sent to the president and then
Okay.
to the executive board. The president gets first look and then the executive
Okay.
board. Not that the president's going to change anything, but it's just like a courtesy to the president. Then
Mhm.
you can do a committee of three if it needs to be expedited. Doesn't mean that everyone doesn't get a copy of the minutes, but the approval process, it just helps it along that you actually, say, for example, this is our association meeting, and I call for, can I have a committee of three to approve the minutes? And Sandy says, I'll help. Nora says, I'll help. Patricia says, I'll help. That is written into the minutes that those three people are our committee of three to approve the minutes. And they will know to tell the secretary, oh, this wasn't maybe what was said, it was this, and corrected. Then when we go to the next meeting, the meeting minutes are approved as presented or approved with necessary changes. That makes sense?
I
And
see.
there,
So-
by the way, Tiffany, it can be done differently at each site. It doesn't. So, for instance, there is a way where if you're at the school that and by the way, minutes are approved. The executive board minutes are approved at the next executive board meeting by the next executive board meeting. Association meeting minutes are approved at the association meeting right? You don't bring the executive board meeting minutes to the association, right?
Yeah.
So, so at an association meeting, if you don't ask for people to approve, that's okay. You bring the minutes from the last meeting. You distribute them out, either posting them on the side walls or copies out for everybody. And you say, if everybody could please take a look and let us know if you have any changes from the previous meeting.
Mhm.
And you do let us know. And then the secretary hand writes it in a red ink, in the final copy, the corrections, if they're, correction. And then the minutes are approved. So it really depends on the style of your secretary and your president. It's just important that they get approved.
Okay, so does president and the secretary need to sign after approved? Because now all the minutes are not signed, so I kind of worry.
Yes, they are supposed to be signed, but
Okay.
Don't
All
overthink.
Thank you.
Before they go to the audit, they're supposed to be signed. By the-
yeah, so that
Okay.
would be like, for instance, in the audit, that could be one of their line items as a special note that, 3 of the minutes weren't signed by the president, please correct.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you. I have one last question, quick question. You mentioned about only the president can sign all the contract. Currently, we always have a motion committee, and the committee actually signed for the contract, saying like which yearbook, company we're going to use and things like that. So it should be the president sign those contract, right?
It should be the president. Go ahead,
Plus-
Diane.
Yeah, sorry. It's the president plus one other executive board member that needs to sign. It can't just be the president. It can't, and it should never be a committee member, a committee chair ever. It has to be
Okay.
an elected board member.
But it also cannot be the auditor.
Correct. Yeah. So-
Okay, no auditor. Okay, so even if the committee chair is not exactly board member, she can sign that contract.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, we have like 2 minutes left. So I think Amelia had her hand up and then Jennifer.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted clarification on how more the formality of how a committee meeting is run. I mean, do we need to have an agenda? You said that committee meetings, they make recommendations, not decisions. So are they doing motions? And obviously there's not going to be a treasurer's report. So
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be overly formal or anything,
Okay.
but what you do want somebody, even if it's the committee chair or maybe somebody who says, I'll just take some notes, that makes the notes about what it is they're trying to accomplish. And then obviously the committee chair is going to, they are going to present to the executive board. And again, we're not talking, 20 20-page dissertation. What they're going to hopefully do is a one-pager. In fact, and there's even a great tool on the capta.org website in the toolkit in running an event. There's a wonderful form on best practices on doing an event and what you should be looking for, what you should be presenting. So, but basically there's a brief description of the event, tea with the principal, who the participants are. We're going to need tea, napkins, plates, blah, 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 blah. I'll need 7 volunteers and a budget of $200 for tea and sugar and all that, right? And so they present that says, we've worked out all the details. It's going to be a lovely event. Here's what we know. Right? Does that make sense? So it doesn't have to be, but the minutes for the committee meeting, it's up to the individual committee. It's more about making sure that there's notation that something happened, what took place, what's the goals, blah, blah, blah. But there's nobody that's going to be, we don't file those minutes or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Jennifer.
Are there office hours to reach out to somebody because I probably have 15,000 more questions. What's the go-to person to reach out to? I know there's a previous president, but they might be busy, or the council. I don't know who to go to because I know we have 3 minutes left.
Right, so what council are you on? What council?
South Pasadena.
South?
South Pasadena.
Yeah, so your first thing you should do is reach out to your South Pasadena council president and just say, hey, can we sit and talk and see if they have some answers? And then if not, what you just do is reach out via email to either Diane or myself, which is, president@pta1.org or leadership@pta1.org. And then we'll just reach back out to you and let you know a good time that we can connect. So, but be patient with us. It could be 1 or 2 days before we get back to you, because we're all volunteers. We're all working from home with a variety of, time. So no, we don't really have set office hours per se, but we're always happy to get back with you.
And you're the going into the next school year, right? So you're the same.
We're current.
Current. Okay.
We're current.
We're current.
But by the way, if you reach out to us, we can still answer questions. It's not like we don't still know the information, but we would also, if it was something even more detailed or you wanted somebody to come to you, I would refer you to the new leadership vice president and have her talk with you as well. So we'll make sure you get your questions answered.
Okay.
For
great.
those
And
of you
then
that
one quick question, are gift cards allowed to give out or not allowed to give out? Or is that a loaded question and we can table it?
It's a loaded question, but gift cards are considered cash, and it's not allowed as a nonprofit organization. If somebody donates to you $5 Starbucks cards, that's different. But as a nonprofit, you don't purchase the card. It does get very convoluted, and we do have an answer, but it'll take longer.
For those of you that want to step off, we are done, but we do have, if you want to stay on and ask a couple more questions, you're welcome to. We are at noon till 12:30 going into lunch, and then we'll start our third session, exactly. But I do see Nora Hernandez. We promised that we'd come back to you, as well as Mary Perez. Yes. So Nora?
Oh, just wondering how we can avert any pressure from the administration to fund certain things. And the biggest thing that came up this year for us was the senior parade, to be able to fund, whether it was a gift or participation or contribution to that. And my original stance was, no, we can't, because it's only seniors. We need to open it to everyone. But there was a lot of pressure, and I just want to see what's the best way to avoid that pressure from the admin or the staff or the certain groups.
What you can do is meet with the administrator. Is it the principal or one of the staff members that's pressuring you, or just parents?
It's happened just once, in the past, and obviously there's discussion, and being in PTA so long, we have tried to avert it, and you end up giving in, and it's just,
No, we want to follow the rules, right? We don't want to ever jeopardize our nonprofit status. And we also don't want to set bad precedents, right? We want, remember, whatever you spend on one child, you're supposed to spend on all. So, that's why we don't sponsor, 8th grade promotion. Well, what happens to my 2nd grader? It's going to be 6 years, and maybe by the time he's in 8th grade, it's not going to happen anymore, right? You can't do those types of things. It's got to be something like a book fair, right? Like a carnival, like whatever that is, a science fair, that all the children have the equal opportunity to participate if they so choose, right?
And here's another way to look at it as well. Let's say that you have, let's say that you can afford to spend $500 per grade, and you check in with the principal, but you still as a PTA have to decide that we want to spend $500 for the freshmen for, freshman lemonade welcome back, right? And sophomore $500 for, whatever the sophomores need. And maybe it is also, by the way, at a teacher level sort of thing, we want to provide, I know at our middle school they wanted to provide, these assemblies, these really cool assemblies that would affect that particular grade, right? Bring in those for every English class in the sophomore year, that they would hear from this incredible actor who does, Jane Eyre or something, right? So, you spend an equal amount on each one that you all agree actually will reach as much of the kids in that grade level as possible. That's okay. Where it gets sticky, and this is where you just have to push back with the principal, is because we actually had a situation at a council level where we said, okay, they wanted us to spend money on flowers for the graduates at our continuation school. And we said, flowers don't really cut it for us. I know it's a nice thing. Maybe somebody will donate it, but spending our money on flowers, where's the impact to these kids? Instead, what we came up with some scholarship ideas, so you as PTA have to decide, is this the value of your money and where you really want to spend it? Do you really want it going toward things that, by the way, the district should actually pay for in a lot of it? You can do it by grade level as long as they're each getting equal amount, and you should really strongly think about what it is you're spending that money on. And is that your best bang for your buck when it comes to making an impact for your kids?
Perfect answer. Thank you so much.
Mary Perez.
Good morning or
morning.
afternoon. What documents do the presidents need to turn in? And do we need to use a CAPTA PT easy new document? And then the other one is, when do we meet in person again? Is it that we have to now start meeting in person, or can we still do it through Zoom? Or
Okay, so as far as information, that's a really good point. All your incoming board elects, meaning those that are going to take board positions starting July 1, should be uploading information into our officer management system, which is called My PT Easy. On the First District website, which is pta1.org, there is a maybe 3-minute how to do that. And we also have our office manager. It's a little video, but our office manager, Patricia, can also walk you through. In the old days, we used to put them all in for the over 300 associations, and that's a lot. But if we teach you to fish, you'll be able to do this, right? So we can help each of the units and councils with that work. And as your second question was about, I'm sorry, Mary, if you could repeat the second question.
are we allowed to still use the Zoom to meet?
Yes.
Or are we now in person?
So, got it. So we actually had our first in-person meeting yesterday with all the new council presidents. Gave the option to others to have go on Zoom, and the California State PTA has authorized those units and councils that have not updated their bylaws to meet via teleconferencing, which can be Zoom or Google Meets, anything like that, through December 31st of 2021. I highly recommend that you update your bylaws so that if for some reason that isn't continued after December and your associations wish to continue utilizing it, that you have that option. Okay. So if you need help with their bylaws to get them updated to the 2020 template, that is where that exists, that those meetings can be hybrid, you can do it half and half, whichever is better for your associations.
Okay, I think we need to end this so that we have our own mini little break before we start our third session. And I just would like to thank all of you. The best gift you give your PTA is the gift of training. And if you do nothing else, please share all of this information and more with your board members and work at getting them trained as well. It's the best thing you can do in order for your PTA to be strong and for it to continue to be strong. Share the love, share the training, and always know that we're here for you.
And thank you for serving our children and families throughout First District. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.